Hi, everyone. I'm Clyde Bryant, and welcome to episode 14 of the Uptown Experts podcast. I'm here today with Mike Sistilli. Again,
Hello.
thank you for coming.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
And Luigi Cirocco.
Oh, I thought you forgot who I was for a second there. Happy to be here, Clyde.
Yeah, this one, we try to do something a little bit different. I guess it's the first time, bringing a group together, having the three of us sit down. But this conversation, I think, is going to be, we were talking about it earlier, just like more of just a real conversation about like what's going on in the markets today, right? And on the mortgage side, on the real estate side, I think everyone and anyone is talking about, is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to sell? Like, what's going on with interest rates? I don't even know if I can afford what I have, but my neighbor's buying something bigger. The world's upside down. It just doesn't make sense. And so, part of what we wanted to discuss today is just what are you guys seeing? And like, what type of advice are we giving to the people that we're talking to?
To touch on your point of is it a right time to buy or sell, I've said it before, and I'm a firm believer. I don't even know if there is a such thing as a right time, because like you said, where's the interest rates? Mm-hmm. What's your financial situation? Mm-hmm. You don't really know what's coming. So whether or not you're deciding to buy or sell, all you can do is take a snapshot of right now, and that's your answer.
Yes.
But you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I hate to say it, but we've come to a point in this market where you have to be very cognizant of what might happen, because, it doesn't have to be dire. You could win the lottery tomorrow, then all of a sudden you don't care.
Exactly.
But you could lose your job. And now what happens? You've already got the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. It's easy to stop looking if you're just a buyer, but if you've sold, you can't just all of a sudden be like, okay, I'm not selling anymore. Mm-hmm. So you have to really make sure you're prepared, your financial situation.
But what does that even look like now? Like when I know on my side, I always used to tell people, and I still do, you got to make sure you have at least 12 months, because 12 months, but now is 12 months even enough? Like, Lou, what do you see?
Well, 12 months now, number one, is harder maybe than my lifetime to save. And what is 12 months now? 12 months is so much more money than it was 5 years ago as well, right? Yeah. To that first question, I don't know if there's a right time to buy or a right time to sell. Really, in my adult life, maybe when we started talking about my own house, and it's like, man, the prices are crazy. What if I sold and like lived with my parents for 8 months? Like, But then we're talking about buy and sell. So if I would have sold and bought, like to Mike's point, like, is there a good time? I'm going to pay I'm going to sell at a premium potentially, but I'm going to buy at a premium, unless you have that luxury of somewhere else to go. But I was also thinking at some point things are going to crash, which I could have been wrong, right? It could have been the opposite. I do know people that sold because they saw the market continuing to go up, and then a year later they're like, I can't even afford to go back to my old neighborhood anymore, and now they're stuck renting, right? Because they were waiting. They were playing the game and mistimed it, and now they're stuck renting because
the
dice didn't roll the way that they thought it was going to roll. So the short answer is I don't know if there ever is a good time to buy or sell. I don't know what's going to happen with mortgage rates. You just don't know. Mm-hmm. You make decisions based on what's best for your family. You do have to plan for. You know how I am. I'm like doomsday guy. Like, you got to plan for like the absolute worst scenario. Like what happens if like one of our incomes is taken away, kind of thing. Can I still survive?
Exactly.
Or am I going to be like, hey, pa,
but
need help here?
Take what you said, because it's very important to understand that rationale. You said, how do you even save 12 months, or what is saving 12 months? So now let's say you did sell and you had somewhere to go live. The question now becomes, but what are you saving? I sold my house. My mortgage rate was 2019, 2020 mortgage rates under 2. So now am I saving for mortgage rates that are 5%, 6%?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Where's the down payment coming from? Where's the property tax, land transfer tax coming from? You know, and you're seeing it more and more that we don't even know what that number looks like. And we're human beings. If I sell, I put money in my pocket, what's to say all of a sudden I'm not going on vacation or I'm not splurging because the old adage is burning a hole in my pocket.
Yeah, but real life also happens. Right?
And if you're living with your in-laws, the vacation looks mighty attractive.
Oh, and then all of a
time to go
sudden,
on.
if 10 grand here, oh, but you know, there's money in the bank, 4 grand there. You know, next thing you know, you had 120,000. You had 300,000 from the sale of the house. And you were waiting because somebody told you, no. It's going to come down. The market's got to come down, right? But is it?
And you know what the scary thing is? You just said two numbers that sounded like down payments back in the day.
Yeah.
Those are barely deposits on
Yeah,
purchases.
that's true.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Like, really think about that.
Yeah.
That's not even a 10% deposit on a $1,050,000 purchase, which $1,050,000 today, what does that even get you?
Nothing.
I remember
Not
seeing
in Vaughan, not in Woodbridge.
2010 when I was maybe 2 years into the industry. I saw an offer with $150,000 deposit, and my mind was blown. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was used to seeing 5K, 10K, 15K was the norm, and then I saw 150K. Now, are you seeing any less than 50?
No.
Like,
And
it doesn't exist.
Even
Doesn't
crazier is that number that you said, 15, 10, people will walk away from that. Like, think about that.
Yeah, that's
How long
That's a
does
good
it
point.
take you to put $15,000 in your bank account and somebody is willing to walk away because the thought of having a mortgage that I have to pay $5,000, $6,000 a month, it's less scarier to think that I'll just give away $15,000.
But this is where, you know, so many different schools of thought. And, you know, the one thing I love about this industry, you're always going to come into, you know, some really intelligent conversations and maybe some that are just going to shake you. So I was having a conversation with a client, and we were, you know, talking about the mortgage and is the right time. They need access to equity, but you're borrowing at, you know, now 5 and a bit. Maybe if you take a 5-year product, you can be 4.99. But do you want to be in a 5-year in this market? And, you know, so I started to talk to him about the variable rate mortgage. And I said to him at that point in time, you know, maybe look at the variable, because even if we have to navigate or change something, you have a little bit more flexibility depending on, you know, which way you want to go. And, you know, that was before we started seeing the craziness that's going on now with, you know, these crazy low variable rate discounts that are going on, right? Like, I think we saw an offer the other day from one of the lenders that came out.
Yeah. I'm not going to, I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
TD's doing prime -1, basically, prime -101.
Yeah, which is nuts.
On a conventional deal, not a high ratio deal.
Yeah.
But what is a big discount, right? Like, when rates were 2.45, there were discounts at 1.2 below, and people were paying, you know, 1.3%. Like, it's a bigger discount than we've seen in the last 18 months, I guess.
But if you're looking
People get
for
excited.
Yeah, if you're looking for access to capital in order to cash flow your home instead of having to liquidate your home, and you're trying to do the number crunch on which way or how much, it kind of makes it more palatable, if you will. Like, do you look at it and say, okay, I'm at what? You know, that would take us to 619 on a 101 discount. 619 on a variable.
But you're not discussing. Sorry, Mike. Not discussing. You're discussing rate, but it's part of the discussion. It's not the discussion.
No.
So if I'm discussing variable with somebody today, it's more for the strategy of, number one, where do you see rates going? What is your opinion on rates?
Exactly.
What's your risk tolerance? Like, can you sleep at night knowing the rate may not come down for a year, 2 years?
Exactly.
May go up in theory. It could, right? I'm speaking to the convertibility of the product. Yeah, 3-year fix right now, it's attractive, but is it going to be more attractive in 6 months or a year? You don't know. With a
don't know.
variable, you have the flexibility to switch it over if you want to. So
It gives you a little bit of 619 is kind of where we're at.
But it's funny when it wasn't 619, when it was 659, nobody wanted a variable.
No.
It's only fixed now, right? Because it's still rate as the number one.
Right. Because it's what everybody is used
And
to hearing.
if in the end that's what you go with, that's fine.
But it's the wrong.
You need to have a thorough discussion with your professional, I think.
Of course, it's the rate is the part of the discussion that people want to hear, but it's not the actual part of the discussion that people need to know about.
It's the wrong number.
It's the wrong number.
The number that matters is the size of the mortgage.
Thank you.
Having said that, the variable rate mortgage was also the first one that ever used the stress test. They told you this was going to happen. If you can withstand the ride or the wave that the variable rate mortgage was, yeah, okay, fine, you're at 6.19 now. We were just talking about, everyone's talking about the interest rate deduction. So if it goes down a quarter point, whoop-de-doo. Well, guess what? Whoop-de-doo on a fixed mortgage. But on a variable,
Thank you.
now you're going down a quarter point.
Yep.
So now you're not 7.2 minus 1.01. You're 6.95 minus 1.01.
Thank you.
Right? And so on and so forth.
Exactly.
So because you were able to ride the wave and you didn't just fall into a 3-year fix because, you wanted that lower rate.
That's the safe bet.
As easy as it went up, it may not go down easy.
Correct.
But if it goes down, you're going to benefit. Can you
100%.
afford it?
Yes.
Right? In my opinion, the only reason anybody ever does a fixed mortgage is not to take advantage of an interest rate, just to know for 36 months, 48 months, 60 months, my payment's not going to change. This is what it is.
Exactly.
I can plan.
And that's the way we were always taught, right? Then it became about playing the rate game for so long, for so many people.
But playing the rate game again, it's the wrong game. It's like you're playing checkers and I'm playing chess. I'm sorry.
How many times have you heard in your career someone taking a 5-year fixed and then you dig a little deeper and you talk to that agent or that mortgage specialist from my banking days and they're like, yeah, they might sell after like 2 years. They're more than likely going to sell after 2 years. Like, well, why are you going 5 then? Oh, the rate. It's the best rate right now. It's like, okay. I mean, I hope you explain portability and all that and what happens, but at the same time, like,
not the right number.
I always like get an uneasy feeling when I see an agent, let's say, doing that. And then I'm just like that hyper vigilant guy who's like now worried, like it's in the broker channel, especially like, did you look into porting, like what the rules are with that particular lender? Because what if they come through and do what they say they're going to do? They sell and you've gone to a lender that maybe doesn't have favorable porting guidelines, right? Like perhaps, right? Like have you had the thorough discussion? Have you gone down that path? And if you have, and you've explained to your client, you've kind of prepared them, this is what could happen, kind of, then by all means go for a 5-year. But for me, it's a lot of like rate before anything else.
Well, what if they pick the wrong product based on the rate? Because normally,
that's what
when
I'm saying.
you
That happens
break,
a lot.
right, what is it? It's 3 months interest or IRD. But there's some 5-year products that are neither because you can't break them. It's actually a percentage of your mortgage balance. And people don't find that out till it's too late.
Yep.
And then you're sitting back like, whoa, nobody told me that. That doesn't work.
No.
Well, I preach to our agents here, you have to read the commitments, guys.
Forget about the commitments. It's not
It
even
should
the
happen before
commitments.
that, I think. But
Imagine on the other side, and this is where, people fault me all the time and say, Clyde, why do you want to be the jack of all trades? And for me, and no offense to anybody, that's an insult. Because what I'm doing by having multiple companies, multiple licenses, is learning. And so if you can take all of the knowledge that you've obtained through mortgages, through real estate, through lending, and then you put them all together to give financial expertise to people, I'm sorry, if anything, what that does is empower you. And so for me, as we're having the conversation, I look at it and I say, from the real estate perspective, you're a realtor and you're entering into a transaction with your clients. And have you ever stopped to say, can I see your mortgage documents, your mortgage commitment, so that I can understand when I'm selling your home and you have to pay a penalty because you're in a fixed rate closed mortgage and you're only 1 or potentially 2 years into that product because you took a 5-year today because you wanted the 499. And now you couldn't ride the wave and you're a year in and you realize I'm running out of money and I got to sell. And if you're not the realtor that actually asked the question or has the knowledge to ask the question, then now it's not just the price that you're selling at minus the real estate commissions you have to worry about. It's the massive penalty that you're going to have to pay on that 5-year fixed rate.
And that's on a buy and sell. Look at a renewal. And there, people again are looking at the wrong number because they're like, well, I can go to a 5-year that's 4.99. Yeah, but are you factoring in your amortization? Mm-hmm. Because if you renew, even though you're at a higher interest rate, your amortization's lower. So you could be mortgage free sooner. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I could have 4.99, but you're adding 13 years back to your mortgage. Like, nobody is asking those questions or nobody's talking about those numbers. So even though you have a opportunity to get a lower rate than you're used to, what's the size of your mortgage? What's the amortization? Mm-hmm. What are the prepayment penalties? Mm-hmm. What are even prepayment options?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've even told people in the past, is like, to me, an annual prepayment is useless unless you can max it out.
Exactly.
If you want to do a small amount, then increase your bi-weekly payment or your monthly payment because it still works the same.
Exactly.
But don't just all of a sudden, oh, I'm on my 1-year anniversary, I'm going to put $1,000 in my... Keep that money in your pocket.
Keep it in your pocket. It's not enough. It's not going to make a difference.
Increase your monthly payment by $100. Yeah. At least that would do something.
You know, I remember, and again, yes, Clyde, that was 2003. I get it. But the logic is the same. Someone once told me, and I say this to a lot of my first-time home buyers that are, you know, in steady employment roles, you know, salaried positions, no real issues that they need to think about in terms of potential loss of income. And you can plan, right? Because what we're doing is making a plan. And so when you're trying to put together a plan, you say, okay, I make husband and wife, maybe in this day and age, $250,000, $300,000 joint incomes, trying to buy a new home. And the conversation leads us to, you can afford $5,000 a month. And let's assume that $5,000 a month is your mortgage payment. If you were to take that $5,000 and say, okay, I'm going to divide it by 12. Whatever that number is, I don't know, quick math, bad math, I don't have a calculator on me, whatever it would be, right? You're going to add that to the mortgage payment. And now instead you're going to pay, I don't know, bad math again, let's assume an extra $400. So you're going to pay $5,400 a month. What that number would actually allow you to do when you're trying to buy less than $1 million, 25-year amortization as your starting number, by adding that 1/12 to that payment, should bring it down to about, if I remember correctly, it's about 18, 19 years.
Yeah, it shaves off a lot.
It's a huge number, but you have to be able to afford it. Yeah. And so, yes, the world is not fair. Everybody makes something different. And what a company is willing to pay you for your time is your number. So based on your number, if you can afford a $5,000 payment that turns into $5,500 a month, and you can go and buy your, condo here in Vaughan, then go and do it. And understand in 18 years, you could be mortgage free. That's a real number.
Can I comment on something you said there?
Yeah, of course.
I was going to do it anyway. I don't know why I'm asking. For me, the word afford and the word qualify have become intermingled and not in a good way.
Okay.
So I can maybe qualify you for a mortgage, but if we haven't talked about your budget, like I don't know if you can afford the mortgage. So
yes,
you have people that can, well, not to get technical, but let's say their TDSR on paper is 35. You can afford the mortgage.
Of course.
You can qualify for the mortgage easily, but can you afford it? What else is going on in your life? You do have people that struggle even at those low numbers. And then you have maybe the opposite, that on paper your TDSR is 50, but you've got another relative in the house that's contributing money or whatever. That person can't qualify. They can probably afford it though, right? And people have just started to use the two words interchangeably. It's like, what can I afford? I can get you a $900,000 mortgage. Here's what the payment is. Great, I qualify. No, here's what the payment is. Break that down now. Think about that.
That's
what are your
what it
other
is.
expenses?
That's what matters.
Just because the bank will give you the money doesn't mean you can afford it. And I would say to people both with, mostly when I would have to deliver decline news at the bank, they was, I can afford it. I'm like, well, there's a big difference between qualifying for the mortgage and actually making the payment on the mortgage. Maybe you can make the payments, but you don't necessarily qualify. But for me, that goes both ways as well, because you have people that maybe it's their lifestyle, maybe it's how many sports their kids are in, whatever they do on the side, that they easily qualify and they're struggling.
See, I like the way you put that, because I spin it a little bit differently, just word-wise, but my meaning is exactly like you, in that I say affordability and accountability. So just because on paper it says you can afford to do it, should you be doing it?
Yeah.
And you bring up a great point, because you can afford this mortgage payment. You can afford these property taxes. You can afford this car payment, but they're not taking into consideration extracurricular activities for your kids,
Life.
daycare for your kids.
Run a budget.
Your car breaks down and now you got to buy a new one. And we all saw the price of cars after COVID.
Oh my gosh.
You can't plan for those things. And it becomes, in a way, like you said earlier, like I look at everything from a planning perspective. But how can you not, right? Affordability is one thing. Qualifying is another thing. But what are you doing at the same time? Why are you doing it? Like, why are you calling up Luigi and saying, can I afford to make this purchase? But why?
Oh my goodness.
Who knows the reasons? You could be selling because you got relocated for work. You could be selling because you can't afford where you live anymore. You could be selling because you got a promotion, you got excited. Like,
You could be
nobody
selling
knows
because
motivations.
You believe that the market will come back. That's your belief.
Sure.
We talked earlier, funny enough, we talked earlier about where people get their information, and just because they believe it, it makes it true, right? And some people would say in this market, we've reached the bottom, or if not, we're pretty close. And if that is your belief, and you have the staying power, the cash flow, the ability to support, to afford, to Louis' point, whatever that number is, and you have the ability to ride that potential wave back up, would you not be better off to buy in this market if that's the bet that you're going to make? Because why are you transacting in this market? Why are you buying or selling if you're not actually trying to make money in the real estate market? Because that's what it is.
Well, it's intent. What are you trying to do? Because if you're buying and selling because you're going to occupy those homes, what's the difference? Like we said, if you're, what are you doing? You buying a rental now because Maybe the price is a little low, and then when rates drop, it'll go up in value. Like, what are you trying to do?
But even so, if you're buying a rental now, right, conventional wisdom is you're doing 20-25% down payment. You're never breaking even.
It's
at
not
that
going to
moment.
service itself.
Right?
That's
There's
for
no
sure.
shot.
There's no.
You have to do at least 50% down to even get close to servicing.
Yes.
Or even get close to breaking even. But why are you dropping so much money in investment property?
Exactly.
I said this in some other content we recorded last year. Like, you're buying a rental property now. Conventionally, you want to do 20% down.
Yeah.
It's not servicing the mortgage.
Yeah.
So why are you buying it? You're not buying it because it's going to cash flow every month. You're
No.
buying it for
Future
you
value.
think because your kids, it's going to be an asset for the kids, but you're not. It's not cash flowing for you. You're actually
No.
dipping into your pocket every month because of
But
that shortage. But you're thinking
Long
it's for my
term.
kids. I'm going to have an asset that's going to be worth X amount
Whatever
of
it is.
dollars. So to your point, do you buy it now when it's 600,000, or you wait until rates drop where that same place is going to be, in theory, 700, 800.
But at the end of the day, if your belief is the market is low now, because every realtor for the last, pardon me, I don't know, maybe 18 months has said, my value of real estate is gone. It's gone down. I've seen 25%, 40%. Really? I still don't see a house in Woodbridge in my area that has lost 40% of value. So I don't understand where these numbers come from, because it's not down 40% unless someone's willing to sell it for 40% less.
And I've always said too, like that number's so arbitrary, because if someone sits here and tells me that the Canadian real estate market's gone down 40%, that's as a whole. But one pocket could be down 10%. One pocket could be down. One pocket could be up 5%.
Exactly.
Because their values were low, so everybody's moving there. So now it's driving everything up. If we're in such a bad market, why is everything a bidding war all of a sudden? Again.
Has anybody tried to look at a house in Etobicoke lately?
And here in the GTA, there's so many pockets, right? It's not like it was, like, I'm going to go back to my bank days when 2010, let's say, the oil market takes a dip, and now everything in Calgary's gone down because it's a one industry town, so reliant on that industry. So it's a roller coaster, right? It's not the case in the GTA. Like, not one industry suffering is, number one, not going to destroy the GTA housing market. And then you have pockets like Etobicoke, where you live, where the rich guys live, that it's probably not going to suffer as much as maybe some other areas.
Yeah, and it's like, but, you know, with that in mind, you know, you're talking about planning, or we're talking about planning because, you know, again, we're talking about how do we do the business, right? And it's about having the conversations about affordability, about the monthly cash flow, about what's coming in, how much do you have saved, what else is put together in your plan, right? In your financial plan. And once you understand what that looks like, call me crazy. I still love my old school Excel spreadsheets. I know there's probably better ways in this day and age, but I put together the same Excel spreadsheet, and any one of my clients that ever comes and sits down and says, Clyde, you know, let's do the financial analysis. That's what I send them. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
But yeah,
Fill
I
it
follow
out.
Excel accounts on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd with
I
Excel.
love those things.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can do that?
Yeah.
With Excel?
That
And
program's
I thought I was
unreal.
decent
That
at
program's
Excel.
unreal.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
no.
oh my God.
It's a
this
whole
is
world.
game changer.
It's a whole world. Listen,
Cue the Microsoft plug. I hope we're getting product.
I hope so. We'll send them a note that, by the way,
Free office for everyone.
that's it. So yeah, but you know, I do. I send it out because at the end of the day, one, it makes them go and do the thing, which is, let me go and check. How much do I pay for Enbridge? How much do I pay for Rogers? Why is my TELUS bill so high? What do you like? All of a sudden, you're putting the numbers down in front of you so you can see how much am I really spending? What am I making? What is our goal? And what are we trying to achieve here?
And what happens when you do that? Something always happens when you do that. Something's created inside of you. It starts with an A. It's called anger. Because now two things have occurred. It's become real, and you see how much you're spending. There's nothing that hurts more than you open a bill and you're like, why does this cost so much? The telecom companies do it all the time. You get your Rogers bill, your Bell bill, and I don't care. I'll call them out till I'm blue in the face. It's ridiculous what we pay.
It's high. I'm not gonna lie.
But then you start clawing back, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I didn't need NFL Sunday Ticket, and maybe I don't need Crave, and
it's true.
But
you don't need them. You want them.
By doing that,
don't need any of it.
No,
a simple spreadsheet, it opens your eyes.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
My dad used to do it all the time. Write down your expenses. I don't want to. Why? You're afraid of damn right I am.
Yeah.
Because back in your mind, you know what you're spending.
Exactly.
And it is. It's a scary proposition because look at today. We all go to work. We all make money. We all have families. Even if you don't. You want to go on a vacation, it's considered a reward, right? Some people can't afford to go on vacation. That's fine. It's a luxury thing.
It is, of course.
Today's day, grocery shopping has become a luxury. Gas has become a luxury.
Nuts.
Stepping out of your house has become a luxury. Everything costs money.
I went to the gas station today and I was shocked. I saw $1.72 and I said, wait a minute, that's regular.
Yeah.
When I went to the pump, I didn't even want to look. I'll be honest with you. I put it in. I said, I'm not going to look. I'm just going to pay and I'm going to keep going. Because at the end of the day, that's the cost of the goods. What am I going to do? I'm going to complain. I'm going to ruin my day? No. And now I'm going to go to work. I'm going to make money. And I'll work a little bit harder. But that's my mentality. Because that's what it costs to live the lifestyle that I want to live. And that's what it takes in order to do what you got to do. Right? We're talking about balance and how much time. One of the things that I know people want to talk about is just affordability in general. Right? And one of the things that I found that has been working for me, and I'm going to talk to you guys to kind of get your opinions on it, is, we call it just the early inheritance, talking to the parents, previously the bank of mom and dad, right? About how to potentially assist, you, the person that's trying to get into the real estate market now, because you believe that the markets are affordable, now's the right time. And we're talking to the parents to say, okay, Luigi is looking to buy a home. And in order for him to buy that home, he's going to need to have your help. That conversation is no longer just with Luigi. It's let's talk to mom and dad to see if there is an opportunity for them to help. And it's having the son, the daughter, having them realize that this is a real adult conversation that we need to have, because this is a real adult decision that you're about to make. And so involving now their parents allows me to have the conversation with them about potentially looking at even maybe a reverse, which some people would say, Clyde, you're going to put them in a reverse mortgage. If used properly, potentially, if there's there's no mortgage on the property today, and we're utilizing it for the purpose of early inheritance for the kids to allow them to get into the market, and the kids can afford to make the payments, that's not a bad deal. It's leverage.
I'll say you're absolutely right. 15 years ago, these conversations, number one, they were with 25 and 26-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it was mom and dad going to help out. Can you get more down? And that meant 30, 40,000.
Exactly.
Right? Today it's add 10 years. So the people you're speaking to are in their mid 30s.
Yeah.
And the down payments we're talking about are not 30, 40. They're $250,000, $300,000 down payments. So maybe your dad 15 years ago had 30K, not really earning him anything, had just cash, right?
Well, let's be honest. What were the wages like when our parents were working and doing these things? So I've said it many times on the podcast. My mom's single mother making $35,000, $40,000 a year. I still don't know how the numbers never made sense, right? That's a lot of bingo, mom. That's all I got to say, right?
Yeah, they don't make sense.
They don't make
Canada
sense.
Either, even if you make 100K.
Growing up in the 80s and 90s, now in the 2020s, there's something that's happening again, merging. How many acquaintances, how many people did we know lived with their grandparents?
Exactly.
Not without parents, they bought together.
Exactly.
And that's what's happening now.
Yes.
Instead of getting a gift, because like you said, $30,000 before was like, yeah, okay, no problem. I can help with my kids. I don't got $300K.
No.
So now it's like I sell, you sell, we buy a back split. I live downstairs, you live upstairs. Yeah. It gives the parents a sense of I'm still with my family. I can travel, do whatever I want. The house is taken care of. And then for early inheritance or even inheritance when it happens, I'm already on title.
Exactly.
It's less stress. But what's their financial situation now? Because if they're fortunate to have no mortgage, it's simple. But if, let's say they had a mortgage, now they have to sell, so they only have X amount of money to use. You sell, you only have X amount. You guys combine because they're not working, you may not qualify or be able to afford. And what I'm even seeing is other parents who have HELOCs on their home, and we're talking this is in condos because in Vaughan you can't do it on a house, but they'll buy the condo outright and the child will just pay them. Yeah. They'll pay the HELOC because it's cheaper.
It's way cheaper.
And it's safer.
Exactly.
You miss a payment, I'm not going to, I want you to learn a lesson, but I'm not going to crucify you either.
Yes.
You also, if something terribly happens, fine, we'll sell an asset, but it's one mortgage on two bricks and mortar.
Exactly.
As opposed to, again, affordability, qualifying. These numbers are skewed because really, what are you looking at?
But that's why in most cases when we're having these conversations, it's one, yeah, okay, you need the help of the parents, but mom and dad are, 65, they're not working. And, even if they're 58, they're planning their retirement, they're trying to think of how do I start slowing down? And now I got to think about my 38-year-old buying a house. Where am I going to take $300,000 from to give it to you? Because that's the reality. Either you're going to help or they're not going to buy, or they're going to merge, come live with you, and you guys all live together because a decision needs to be made.
And that's the piece that I was sort of going at with these larger gifts. Not everybody has that much money lying around, or they'd have to take it out of their investments. And then what's the tax implication, right? So before you might have had the money just sitting in a GIC that was coming up for maturity or something because it was a small enough amount. Whereas now you're really having to plan for these gifts, right? It's not as easy as I got a 2-year GIC that's doing nothing for me really, so we'll take it out of there. Now you really have to almost sit down with an accountant and tax plan. And then that's where we come in, maybe a reverse. A reverse is, for me, something I've come around on over the years. I was not a big fan of it back when we used to refer to Chip. I was like, I don't know. Do you really want to do But now, having seen it from the other side and just the situation that we're in, I've become a believer. I've come around a little bit with that for the right individual, obviously, not as a blanket situation.
No. Situations being what they might be. It comes down to access to capital. At what cost? That's what we're talking about.
But even ideally on a reverse mortgage, it's what's your end goal for that property?
Of course.
If that's going to be your final home and that's where you're going to ride out, then why not? But if for some reason I have to now sell this house, I have to think about how much am I getting back now? Because that money's got to go back.
Of course.
And situational again. But it brings us back to just how much everything's changed because we're not talking about 5 digits anymore.
No.
Everything's 6. Right? Even if there was a property that just sold in Kleinberg. I just saw the other day, sold for $7.4 million.
Oh, I saw that one. Nice home, eh?
Beautiful home.
Oh.
And, God bless the person that bought that. But me as a professional and then me as a human being, I don't even want to know what goes in to qualifying those numbers.
It's ridiculous.
They will be shocking.
Yeah.
But again, all the power to you. You've earned the right to make that purchase.
Yeah.
But my God, the deposits, the land transfer tax, the property tax.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And it's, but again, two sides to the
That's
conversation.
Okay. If that person makes $50 million a year,
100%. Nothing wrong with it at all.
Good luck.
It's something to strive for.
Exactly.
In my opinion. I've always said, I don't need a house that big. If I can afford a house that big, I'm buying a house that big, right? Like, let's just be real. You know, I always tell Clyde, I'm not a big car guy because I don't care about that. I'm more of a tech guy. You know, like even if I won Lotto Max tomorrow, my house will probably be like, the floor will come out, lift me to my bed before I did something in regards to cars. But it's because I just never had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden now I can go out and buy an exotic vehicle, yeah, I may do that. And maybe in the south of France, right? You know, I'll go race with Charles in Monaco. But it's everything becomes situational. It doesn't matter how you're looking at it. And even to your point where we were discussing, you know, where people get their information from, you know, we're not here to be negative. We're just here to tell you what we've seen over the years, how to prevent yourself from getting into a position that you're going to have to make a difficult decision.
Yeah.
It happens sometimes, but it's very preventable. Very, very preventable. Because at the end of the day, you don't have to do what you don't want to do.
No, but then what do? Do you sit on the sidelines and do what people have done before and wait for the market to drop, for the bubble to pop? You know, everybody's got this grand idea that the markets are really coming down now.
On the flip side, though, like to what Mike said, people don't think it'll ever happen to them at the same time. And yeah, we're not trying to be negative, but when you're, you know, sat in that little room with two ladies who were up the creek without a paddle, like dad bought 2 pre-cons, because in the past he'd made money on a pre-con, sold it on assignment, you know, cashed out. Now guess what happens, right? Human nature. Now you buy 3 of them. And now your timing was just off. It's coming to close. The condo's not even worth what they paid for. It's worth far less. Now you're ruined financially, right? Like this happens. People do get themselves into these situations. So yeah, it's not a matter of trying to be negative. We could have a negative podcast and just tell stories of bad situations we've seen, because there's enough out there. It's to prepare you, right? As a customer, I never want you to come back and say, Lou, you screwed me up. Like I'm in a tough spot. I know you were, even if you're looking out for their best interest, I know you were trying to help me get that dream home, but I'm really in it now. Yeah. Like, I never want to have those conversations.
No, ever.
With a client, but also friends and family that are my clients. Like,
that's what we're built on.
Are you kidding me? Like, I never want to be in that position.
This is not going to go over well. I know there's going to be somebody who's going to take offense to what I'm about to say. But if somebody approaches you and says, Lou, I made this purchase, I need you to get me a mortgage. What's your purpose in life? It's to get them a mortgage. Yeah. Right? Well, it's for me to get them a mortgage. Yes. But right I'm not, no, exactly. But
they already bought the house.
I'm not going to go and magically make it appear. But if with my knowledge and with my working relationships, if I can get you financing for this house, don't turn around after and make me feel like the bad guy. Exactly. You asked me to do something.
No, you for sure. That's the other side of it.
But at the same time, I'm not going to be an a-hole about it. I'm not just going to say to you, you can't qualify A, you can't qualify B, I got a private mortgage, 15%, 6% fees, go get your keys. No. I'm going to break it down for you. Hopefully, you gave yourself a condition to seek out financing and you don't have to worry about not recouping your deposit and realizing this may not be the right time. But at the same time, if you walk into a place, you go into Hugo Boss looking for a suit, the guy's not there to deter you from buying it either.
No, he's going to make a sale.
Right? Yeah. Even though you're pulling out good old-fashioned plastic.
And you might be saying to that guy, maybe the $2,000 suit is not the suit you should buy. Maybe you should buy the $1,500 suit.
Or the $1,000 suit. Call me cheap.
Right, but...
Cheap.
Hey, Mike.
Since when? It's $1,000. Oh.
Paydays, bro.
Oh, my God. I don't think people don't understand the value of a dollar. A dollar is still a dollar.
But for certain individuals, they're going to say, thanks very much, Mike, for your advice. And they're just going to find someone who will facilitate whatever it is that they want to do.
But this is where it doesn't make sense.
That's the struggle that we have in this industry, I think.
So because we're going to tell them what's real,
The truth.
because we're going to break down a plan and we're going to show you the real hard fact numbers that say, yeah, on paper, go and buy it. But here's real life that's attached to it. Now we're viewed in a negative fashion to say, well, I can just go down the street and this guy's going to give me a mortgage and that's all that matters. I don't understand. For me, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 there.
That's the struggle. It's you try, we talked about transactional. I can do that deal for you. I'll get you somebody to lend you the money.
No problem. Easy.
Number one, you're probably never going to come back to me.
Ever.
Because either you're not going to like me or you might be too embarrassed when you finally do get into that position that maybe we warned you about. You're not going to come back to me. You see it all the time, right? You get a client coming in that didn't go back to their old broker.
Of
right?
course.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, that guy put me in this position and now I can't afford it.
But that's my favorite line.
Me.
How did he put you in that position?
Exactly.
Right? So he called you and said, hey, man, I think you should go buy this pre-con. I got a mortgage for you. I'm sure that's how the conversation went.
That's how that was the whole thing.
You know, and you know, it's even the same thing that we've gone through with FSRA, with all the regulatory changes, and you know, all the continuing ed that they always do about fraud and all that stuff. You know, and the creation of documents and all that stuff. There's always somebody who's asking or implying, "Can you help get this over the edge?"
Yeah.
No, I can't.
We don't do that business here.
The numbers don't make sense. Don't think because you created a pay stub, someone's going to pick up on it. Exactly. Right? And at the same time, you're doing your client a disservice. I'm doing myself a disservice. And that's how you get a client back. But I agree with what Luigi said, though. It doesn't matter what you do. They're just going to find somebody who's going to say yes or tell them what they want to hear.
Well, when you don't own that interaction. So if ideally they're coming to you, Mike, to say, what can I afford? Because they trust your experience, your expertise. So hopefully they've not made an offer yet.
Yeah.
But there's so much nuance to these scenarios. Like, yeah, you do have clients that are like, I've made an offer. It's firm. That's it. I need financing. Now what do you do? Like,
you give them an option.
The time to talk and say, maybe you shouldn't buy this house is gone. So they've bought the house now. It's firm. So what do you do now? Go find you a mortgage, right? Like,
yeah.
I've even said to Clyde in the past, I don't believe in pre-approvals. I think they're useless.
I told him, I said that was one of my favorite segments on any of the podcasts, because I was in my car driving home and I'm like, damn right. Yeah. Yes, I've said this.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely,
because
100% agree with that.
If you're working with your client, whether it's on the real estate side or the mortgage side, and be like, you know what? A pre-approval is not going to answer your question. Let's do a real life setting. You like this house? Let's go crunch these numbers.
Exactly.
This is and I actually had a set of clients that they were prepared to sell their house and they wanted to buy something. So we did a working scenario. We picked a house that they liked. Let's run the numbers. As soon as they saw what that mortgage payment was, they're like, no, we can't do this. And not because they couldn't afford it. They could. They were like, I don't want to put myself in that position.
Do I want to live that lifestyle?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, that's the choice.
And
what's
not
the
everybody's
lifestyle?
like that.
But see, all it took was to show them the payment.
Yeah.
And imagine how many people are not doing that step, buying, and they find out after. Like, that's all it took to deter you, was just a basic, here's what it's going to cost you. Imagine the people that aren't doing that and they're now in that situation.
Exactly.
And then finding out in month 3, like, holy
And then what do you do?
smokes.
What's your first action when you've been hurt? You blame. You point fingers.
You externalize.
Who put me here? Just like I said, that's my favorite line. And you can't help but be sympathetic, but at the same time, you know, my dad always used to say, you make your bed, you lie in it. End of story. But, you know, we've hit a point where, like you said, it's not fair.
No.
But it never was meant to be fair. If you live within your means, then there's no problem. You're never going to run into an issue that you see coming. There's always something that happens, but if you put yourself in the position to handle that when it comes, then great. But like you said, what does 12 months of savings even look like?
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
I don't know what it looks like.
But here's the scary thing. 12 months probably isn't even enough anymore. No. And so, like, in my mind, because at the end of the day, anybody that knows me knows I'm Mr. Conservative as it comes. I'm cheap. I don't like to spend money. I'll spend when I have to.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I spend when I can.
What kind of shoes you got on right now?
No, these are regular, I don't know, Kohans. Listen, shoes are my thing. You know. That's the one place I spend money. I love my shoes.
Go. Don't let me distract
you
with my jabs.
Yeah. This guy. I
threw him off, folks.
I lost it.
Okay, I got a thought. I'll get into my thought here. It's related to all this, and we kind of talked about it off camera before. Do you think? Because I feel bad for the borrowers. Like, we're saying all this, they should do that, but like, when you show up to a house because you're interested and it's something that's in your price range, and now you have, hey, offers at 4:00 today. Get ready. And you constantly are having situations where there's multiple offers, come in firm or get lost, kind of like, you almost feel as a buyer, well, you feel deflated for sure, because you're like, I'm never going to own a house like this. But then there's that undue pressure that you're like, my God, if I lose another, like, I'm never going to find a home here. And that also maybe is pushing people into these situations, because you just feel like,
I got to buy something.
Like, this is not HGTV, like the way I thought it was going to be when I was young, where I'm like, I'm going to go look at houses. I like that house. Now I'm going to negotiate with this person. We're going to strike a deal that's fair. I'm going to be able to afford it. You know what? I don't know if I want to buy this house. I'm going to go home and sleep on it.
That doesn't exist.
Reality slapped me in the face, real sleep on it. This house is gone tomorrow.
Sorry, Lou.
Like,
what do you mean?
For me, the market is maybe to blame for a lot of people's situations, because they start to feel hopeless. They start to get into bidding wars and they lose multiple times. And then they're like, either they're going far beyond what they should bid, not necessarily for that house, but for their own comfort level. And they're going in firm. So now they're like, hey, I have to get a mortgage now. The time to back out of this deal, I don't have that. Like, do you think that this is... It's like a perfect storm almost, right? Like, there's that, the stuff we've talked about, there's this, that's all leading to people being in very difficult positions, I think. I don't know. What do you guys think?
But it also boils down to the vicious circle of, you said it best before we started, the managing of expectations. And, we see it on the real estate side all the time. Buyers think their house is worth, sellers think their house is worth A. Buyers think it's worth B. They agree on C, but what happens after the buyer becomes the owner?
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden it's worth A again.
Exactly.
Right? And, so a seller...
I painted it, though.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. And,
my $300,000 paint. You don't like the color.
And then it's like you're sitting there, but your grass looks dead. Hold on, get the spray paint down.
That's the best.
It's perfect,
what do
right?
you mean?
Bidding wars are vicious because, the agent's just doing right by their client.
Of course.
He's trying to get the most money possible.
That's his job.
Me as the buyer's representative, if I see a property in Vaughan and they're asking $1,050,000, right away I know this is an offer night. I go confirm it by looking at the remarks. I tell my clients, look, you want to go see this house? They're not asking this. They're not expecting this. If you want to see what this true price, that what he wants, just hope this offer night goes wrong, because the next day you'll see what he wants.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times when you see, you're like, I'm not paying that number, you almost got involved in that.
Exactly.
But how do you handle, but I'm never going to buy. I'm never going to buy. We've all felt that. I feel that now because I look with my wife all the time. I'm like, how do you upgrade in this market? How is it even possible to comprehend that? So imagine a first-time home buyer who doesn't have the opportunity. Like, and even so, with all these programs that exist, it's still not enough. Because where are you buying? I was looking at a property today in Acton. We're doing underwriting on a deal. It sold for $1 million. Acton.
$1 million?
$1 million.
Wow.
It's worth the drive to Acton.
It's at $1 million. It's worth the drive to Acton.
Right? And you didn't even get land. You didn't get nothing.
I'm sorry, are you looking at that as a good deal? Is that what your point is? Because I don't think he's making that. I think he's saying, wow, $1 million in Acton of all places.
No, I'm saying
saying
if I would
just-
have bought it when it was 200,000.
But that's what everybody's spending $1 million on. And then you get an application for Turkey Point, Ontario, which I didn't even know existed. And it's on a channel on Lake Erie, which is very unique because it's backs on and has front access to water. It's surrounded by water.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right? These houses, these cottages, houses, whatever you want to refer to as, in the 2s, the 3 millions.
Yeah, but that's the pocket.
That's the pocket. A pocket I didn't know existed.
But just because we didn't know existed
Doesn't mean it's not there.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, in a down market, people are making money via real estate transactions. If you knew where to buy and sell, if you knew where to transact. So is the market down? Is now the right time to buy and sell? I don't know. I think
where are you looking is the question
much.
I would ask.
Thank you very much.
But also what's coming, right? You have immigration targets. You have the housing plan that they're supposedly going to build, which is a joke.
Yeah, you're not going to build billions of houses.
There's like they're not going to be able to do it. We've never been at the pace of new starts that they're suggesting that they're going to do. So, like, that's the other. Where is this going? Like, how many more people are going to be coming into Canada that you're going to be competing against for this many houses? Like a small.
There's not a lot of houses here for the number of people. There's not enough.
I don't know. Like I do worry. Like there's going to be a larger correction, but then at the same time, I think about this stuff and I'm like, but how?
You can't,
because you're always going to have buyers. If the immigrants are coming with money, you're always going to have buyers.
Exactly.
But let me flip that now. You got immigrants coming with money. How many people do you know have packed up shop and left?
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about when they made that capital gains announcement. My phone went nuts.
See, but that's the thing too. I still don't understand what people got so upset about. If you bought something in the last 5 years, it ain't applying to you. Because there's no way you're making $250,000.
Not in the last 5 years.
Okay, every pre-construction appraisal we've seen in the last 24 months has been under what they bought it for.
Yeah.
With the exception. Now, if you're talking about a cottage that you've owned for years, that's a different story.
That's been in the family, right?
But that's the problem.
No problem.
I bought a rental property 20 years ago. I bought it 20 years ago at $200,000. It's worth, I don't know, maybe $1.2 million now. How much money are you about to take from me?
But
66%? 66%.
0.7.
Sorry. 66.7.
Well, not yeah.
It's just such a nice round number too.
Mike, I'm almost afraid. Tell me I must be wrong. But that's $660,000 on $1 million?
If your capital gains is $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is still
Now,
ludicrous
I'm not up to
think,
speed
right?
probably as well as you guys are. There's no grandfathering of any kind here. It's just like starting
not on
today.
This side, not on this side. And like even with the capital gains originally, the only grandfathering or even any kind of exception you got is if you own the house for like eons. Like we're talking like grandmothers that have lived on college for 50 years. They bought for $25,000. They lived there the whole life, even though there's no capital gains from that. But like if they moved out and you started renting it, you're not getting that whole hit because it's been around for too long.
Usually there should be some sort of attestation or something that can be signed by the lawyer's office to take care of something like that.
At the same time, this is going to sound so stupid, but nobody wants to pay tax. But a wise man once told me, if you're paying tax, you made money.
Thank you.
So, I don't know, man. Where's the give and take?
Yeah, but you got to pay tax and again, I'm not going to turn this into a political conversation. I'm not saying what the Liberal Party is doing is correct. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that with the taxation, the money should be put back into the Canadian economy by the government in order to improve our living across Canada. So if the money is utilized for the purpose in which it was intended, then paying your taxes is a good thing,
That's a good one there, Clyde.
right? However,
I'm going to need receipts.
There's no way to guarantee that.
You're taking this much more revenue through this.
I agree.
This change in tax. Where exactly is this money going?
I agree
I
with
need
you.
receipts, because if you're just going to light it on fire, what are we doing?
don't talk to
Why
me
are we
about
hurting
that.
the hardware? I know they position it as we're going after the big guy, the greedy pig with the suit. That's how they sell it. But like, what are you doing with the money? Because you're gonna take a lot of money out of hardworking people's pockets. At least have something to show for it, please.
I agree with you there.
And let's just be honest. Like, you know what? We've hit the point where I don't even care anymore what they're really doing, right? Like, they're attacking the only
you just
people.
assume it's gone. You're like,
but they
there's that
can only
money,
attack
bye-bye.
the people that they can attack.
Yeah.
You can't go pull this on middle class or under. But at the same time, the only thing you're doing is recouping all the CERB you just pissed out.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't care what anybody says.
Of course.
And if you told me that's what you were doing,
No problem.
I won't be happy about
But
it.
I should have lined up and got some too if that was
Exactly, right? But don't make it seem like you're doing us a favor. But this is getting way too political. But you know, it is. You are going to see an exodus, especially in cottage country.
Yeah.
Because people are going to get hit and they don't want to pay the tax. I don't blame them. But then now here's the flip side though. What if you just keep it in the family?
Thank you.
Right?
But
Because
just don't sell
one
it.
thing Canada doesn't have, and we talked about this last time, there's no legacy homes like they have in Europe. You don't hear that story. You're like, oh, I'm living in the house my grandmother or my great-great-grandmother lived in. No, it doesn't exist. Like, God forbid, knock on wood, you know, something happened to my parents and I'm left with the house. No. Bye.
It's got to go.
Like, I can't handle this. I can't carry 2 mortgages, you know, but you had the wherewithal to buy 2 properties. Okay, keep it in the family. And now you're never paying the tax.
That goes back to, the conversation we were having earlier about people coming together, parents, children coming together to buy the home that they can afford together. Pair that with a proper insurance policy if something happens to any one of the applicants, any one of the homeowners, to say, if something happens, if a piece of that income is no longer there, you could now maybe pay off the value of the mortgage and not have to worry about that. So again, part of your plan. But they're coming together, they're buying a home that they can all afford. I don't see anything wrong with that.
No, there isn't. Except for
it's what
probably
you
a
have
higher-
to do. Like, maybe it's not the lifestyle you saw for yourself, but there's nothing wrong with it.
But even then, like, I think it's the conversation you have, because I always joke around with my wife. I'm like, let's just sell. We'll go live with your parents. And she's like, why can't we live with your parents? I'm like, I'm not living with my parents. Are you crazy? There's no way I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Right. And but it does get to a point where it's like you have to make that decision, or you have to make that sacrifice for the better good.
Of course.
But at the same time, us as human beings, it's a pill you don't want to swallow. Does this mean I failed?
Agreed? No.
Right? But some people might not look at it like that.
But here's the other side. Taking it back to our conversation. Not so long ago, I remember you used to walk into someone's home and they lived with their grandparents because that's what it took
To buy that.
to buy the home.
This is like comparing eras in sports. You know, like this is comparing like Wayne Gretzky to Connor McDavid. Like you can't. It's a different set of circumstances today. Like maybe I don't think so, but maybe it meant you failed if this was happening in 2002. But in 2024, I don't think so. I don't think it's the same measuring stick with the cost of homes, with incomes. It cost this way, income. Like
It doesn't even make sense.
It's not the same measuring stick. I don't think. I think it's going to become I hate the term new reality, but it's probably
wouldn't it
reality
be?
for a lot more families than it would have been 22 years ago.
But at the same time, I don't take that as necessarily a bad thing. As much as, yes, it's inaffordable. As much as
Unaffordable.
unaffordable, pardon me. It's unaffordable. But with that being said, if that's what it takes to get into the market and buy a home that together the family can afford. Because now you're giving the early inheritance with the combination of the income, then why is that a bad thing if that's what it takes?
Well, I think it's the problem is not going to be new buyers getting into the market because they don't know any better. They've never been in the market. It's somebody who's in their mid-50s that now has to sell one of their parents' homes and come together, like, because they knew what it was like. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Versus like someone 25 years old today, they have nothing to reference, right? So for them, they're going to come in, and in 20 years, it'll be very much everybody. They'll just be coming into the market understanding that they have to buy with someone else.
But
it's going to be the reality that right now we're in that transition period where you have groups of people anywhere from age 30 to 60 that, no, they had the Canadian dream, right? They worked hard, they bought a house, they live in their house, they want to pay off the house before they retire, and now they're having to pivot because something happened in their life. Canada got more expensive. Like a bunch of curveballs were thrown their way. Those are the ones that are going to look at this as like, I don't know what's going on here. But the guys who are young, in 20 years from now, I got to buy with my parents.
That's normal.
What, you bought without? Like, how'd you even do that?
How'd you even do that?
Yeah, it's just going to be the reality.
Yeah, absolutely insane. I mean, when you think about it, it's I don't know. Is this the new reality? Is this what it takes to get into the market nowadays?
Yeah, or like your kids, where are they going to go?
Oh, listen.
You want them close by, I would assume, obviously, like most
parents.
parents.
Of course.
You think they're going to ever be able to buy in your neighborhood without you and your wife's support in some way or another?
Absolutely not.
How's that going to happen?
It's impossible.
It's impossible. No, but and this is where, God bless the people that I'm lucky enough to surround myself with, that I continue to, gather information from. And, I remember years ago, one of, my friends that I hold dear, he said to me, Clyde, when you can, do. Because when the opportunity or when the time comes, you might not be able to. And so you try to transact early when you're young enough to buy something that maybe down the road it's going to be for the kids, right? Because like you said, even at, I don't know, Mike, what's a condo going for now at Festival with these pre-sales? Do you know?
The new building?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just actually, the 1+1s, I think are 800,000.
You get into a decent condo in Woodbridge, $800,000. But it's ready in a couple years, maybe. I don't know the details. My point is, you buy it today because it's 8, and you put someone in it that is going to help you pay it down. You're going to have to put something in from your own pocket
because you're from your own pocket.
Because you're betting on the future, but not for
rents are high, but
come on, not that high, right? But if it's going to cost you, I don't know, bad math. Let's assume you're putting down $200,000. It's going to be $600,000 mortgage. You're probably going to be, I don't know, $3,200 a month, maybe. I don't know, bad math.
Are you buying parking?
Right? Oh, of course, you need parking in Woodbridge. So there's your goal, $4,000, right? I don't know.
A day, maybe. Have you seen some of the cost, the prices they're asking for parking spots?
Don't tell me. No, I don't mean for the parking. I'm saying the total payment, $4,000 a month.
Payment, yeah.
Right?
Yes,
At the end of the day, you crazy?
A heart attack.
So last I did one, $150,000
downtown, right?
was the parking in
Yeah,
Toronto.
that's ridiculous. Was that electric?
No.
I'm
talking.
There's a premium for an electric.
Well, you got to charge your car. Hello, if we're gonna go electric, you can't charge your car. What good's your parking spot? Sorry.
Wow.
Right? It's a whole different world.
Or guess what? Your kids are gonna go to Acton.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm not driving.
Happens, right?
I don't even know
of course.
to go see my kids in Acton. I'm sorry, I don't have that luxury. I'm in mortgages and real estate. Mike, can you take a 2-hour drive to go see your kids?
But these are the conversations families are having. In Acton, at least you can drive there because they could go to.
Agreed.
Right, wherever. They could go to Brandon, Manitoba.
Yeah, I agreed. But this is where you're seeing some people that are saying, yeah, it's crazy. But at $800,000, if I don't buy this condo for my kid's not going to afford anything that's going to surround me.
I'll bring this full circle. And if you are that buyer that bought it because of their kids, but they didn't do the budgeting. They can't tell if they can afford it. And now we're back to square one with people getting into trouble.
Yeah, agreed.
Bought something they can't afford.
It's almost like the real estate has become the new RESP. Because if you do the RESP and your kid doesn't go to school, all kinds of ramifications,
Yeah,
right?
what's the point?
So if you do the real estate and you buy, let's say you buy a condo downtown, I'm going to rent it out. My kid's going to go to U of T. They'll stay there instead of doing residence. Well, I'm not going to U of T. Well, what? Right? Like, there's something I didn't plan for.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so where are you going?
What would your father have said if you said, I'm not going to U of T? Mine would have been like,
You're going to U
use
of
the
T.
language here, but you're going there.
I'm not sure why.
What do you-
This isn't really a conversation, right? I'm the parent and you're the child.
And you know what's funny? I actually said that to my son the other day. I'm like, no, not my son, sorry, my daughter. I'm like, at some point we got confused here. You know, I know it seems like I'm asking you, but in reality, I'm telling you
Exactly.
to do something, and not in a mean way. But,
No.
you know, you were playing with your toys. You made a mess. Can you go clean it up?
Exactly.
I'm just being nice.
I'm being nice about what I'm telling you to do.
You know your grandfather that you love so much? Do you want to know how he said it? And he didn't use words. It was picked up in the mess, clean it up.
Exactly.
And, but yeah, it's, you know, it really, I think just that story alone shows how much everything's changed.
Everything
how much
is
it's
backwards.
It's evolved. Like, you know, you used to always joke around like, oh, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, but I feel like that's how life's become.
Yeah.
Like, I can be sitting here with you three and we can crack
Evan's
a
in
joke.
the background. He knows how to count.
No, but this
Evan's
is
in
what I
the
mean.
background.
But we can crack a joke.
Yeah.
I don't know if it bothers Evan.
No.
Probably.
And
Evans,
10
he's
years
a new
ago,
generation. He's
or
everything
even
else.
5 years ago, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's even the same too when you're talking. You think when you first started here, you could sit with a new client, crack a couple of jokes to alleviate the
stress,
situation,
yeah, we're
cut the
getting to know each
tension,
other.
see what type of personality they have. Now it's like you're better off just saying, so what can I say to you? You know, like I saw
you
that.
don't even work in the corporate world.
I saw that clip where they were kind of, you know, doing a parody of, you know, the one person asked the person in the barber chair, like, do you want to be he or them or they? And then they asked the guy version. He's like, just cut my hair, man.
No, it was,
right?
can I touch you?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have
Can I
permission to
touch you? And he's like, how are you supposed to cut my hair?
Just cut my hair.
And, you know, we're
what I'm here
laughing
for.
at that. But in actual fact, you're just, I guess, being respectful to today.
Yeah. I
And
guess.
you're acknowledging that the world has changed.
It has changed, but this is where we go back. And, you know, I know we were talking about it earlier, where we're having the conversation of just, you know, being in the business and having to make sure that you're protecting yourself against people making decisions that they are making. When all we're trying to do is have an honest conversation with you to tell you, here's the good, here's the bad, here's the ugly. And if by some strange reason this doesn't work out because you decided to buy the house without talking to me first, now all of a sudden you're not gonna be able to afford it, and they're coming back after the brokers and the agents, the people that are putting them in the mortgages. Now, if that's not backwards, I don't know what is.
And it's like a relationship or a marriage, right? When everything's smooth sailing, everything's great. And I tell my agents, like, when I see certain behavior from some of their clients, like, document everything.
Agreed.
Because everything's good now, but if God forbid something happens with this person when they buy, human nature is they don't internalize. They're not going to look and be like, it was me. They're going to be looking for someone to blame.
Who can I blame?
You need to protect yourself. Document that you've given this advice, you know, texts, emails, save them. Because when people are desperate or their back's up against the wall, they're going to be looking for someone to lay the blame on.
Agreed.
What are the three classic lines? I didn't know. I wasn't aware. Nobody told me.
I wasn't told exactly.
And by documenting, no, we did talk about it. And, you know, it really comes down to a point of know your client.
Know your client.
Know your audience. Know the room.
Agreed.
And I like what you said when people are desperate, because desperate people do desperate things. And that does not make them a bad person. They just don't know what else to do.
Exactly.
Their back is
It's
against
like
the wall.
like an animal who's been attacked. You're frightened. You've never been in this situation, so you're not trained to deal with it.
You just lash out.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a human instinct for a lot of people.
And that's, part of the unfortunate reality of being in this business, right? And again, I guess experience shows, or experience will give us a little bit more knowledge to allow us to protect ourselves against these things and educate our agents and brokers. But then again, going back full circle, now we're the bad guys because we're saying, hey, be weary, maybe not always is what it seems.
Yeah.
Versus, we'll help you get this deal over the line.
And sometimes I wonder, like, do our agents, but it could be any
agents.
Do you guys
No.
think I love compliance? Do you think I love talking about these sorts? I don't. I really don't. But like, I'm here to make sure you protect yourself and the brokerage and everything. Like,
And sometimes protect the borrower from themselves.
yeah,
Right?
it's like, this doesn't, I don't wake up in the morning excited about these topics. It's just a reality of the situation. So
I mean,
live with it.
For me on the lending side, I'm always being weary, right? I give the advice, and I would just make sure that, hey, cover your bases. You just have to. I think it's sound advice, and if you're not getting it, I'm giving it to you now. Be weary.
That's been around forever. CYA,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're always going to protect yourself. You protect your clients, and things happen, but document. Make sure that everybody understands the path that we're all on together, and that's it. And then if something does come up, you can handle it together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not documenting, if you're not asking the right questions, if you're not paying attention to everything we're taught, then you're just asking for trouble, and you create trouble for your clients. And then that's when they'll go to another broker, and you'll never see them again. Because why? You couldn't document something, or you couldn't get them to sign. KYCs happen all the time. Why do I have to fill this out on the lending side? Why do I have to do this? Or even if they're signing a subscription agreement, why do I have to put this much? This is the reason why you're asking these questions.
Yeah,
It's to protect you.
agreed.
They want to know that you can do what you want to do. Not because they want to stop you, because they don't want to hear you complain after. That's why.
Very true.
You want to invest $200,000? Show me you can invest $200,000. But it's my money. I'm not telling you not to do it. Just show me you can do it.
Exactly.
I can do it. Excellent. I lost my money. Why? He strayed me in the wrong. Did you sign this document?
It said you could do it.
Is that not your initial?
Hello, this is real life. It's the market.
Well, I took it from a line of credit. Who told you to do that? You weren't supposed to do that. There's a reason, but now this falls on my shoulders.
Exactly.
Did you ask him where the money came from?
Did you do your due diligence?
I did ask him. Do you have proof of that? No. So you didn't ask him.
You didn't ask him. It never happened.
So you didn't document it.
Exactly. It's a slippery slope, as they say, right? It's but I'm always going to be the one to have the difficult conversation, and I hope that the agents and brokers that are out there, I hope they're doing the same, right? That's all we can do.
Look, there's always a bad apple, but for all the ones that I've ever worked with in my life, even our referral parties such as yourselves or all the other brokers we work with, they're all great people, and they all do well by their clients. We can walk down the street, and there's always going to be one guy who's
That's why I'm okay with all the when FSRA comes and cracks down a little bit or just puts one more hurdle in the way. Like, it's a pain in the ass, but like at the same time, like it's necessary.
Yeah.
It just weeds out.
But even the level 2, the private mortgage course, I wasn't even offended by it. I'm like, okay, great. You know what
I was saying
Agreed.
about time.
You know what offended me more was when I sat down for that exam. I finished it. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I finished it in 45 minutes.
Good job. Took me 48.
And the girl there who was running it, she's like, "Are you sure you're done?" And politely, I said to her, "I'm like, if this took me any longer, I should not be writing this."
It's true.
Right? And you're not even trying to be funny. You're not trying to be boastful, but it's like, I've been doing this for so long.
It shouldn't scare somebody who's
It
been
should
doing
not
it and doing it
deter
right.
you
No.
it's a test.
It's a test.
And then someone's like, well, why didn't you do the challenge exam? I'm like, because I wanted to see what changes they made. So let me go through the course. And you know what? They did make some changes. I didn't agree with half of them. But, okay, fine. No problem. And especially about the administrators. The administrators, because that's a work in progress.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They like to think they have that down pat, but they don't.
It's ever evolving.
It's even when you talk to a lawyer and then you talk to FSRA, it's conflicting information of what you can even do when stuff hits the fan with a mortgage administrator. But that's a podcast for another day. But having said that, it's nice to see that finally getting ahead of it, because that was one thing we always talked about. The OSC was always ahead of things.
Exactly.
FSRA laid in the back.
Yeah.
And FSRA, even though you were doing your investor lender disclosures, if a complaint was never made, they didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, but even when they make the complaints, it's two years before they get back to
that's what I
someone.
mean.
Did you hear about this?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. They don't know it exists. Because you can call them and they'll walk through it with you and you're like, are you reading this for the first time?
What's going on?
I'm calling you for clarity and I feel like you're asking me for clarity. But the OSC, MIE or a subscription, within 10 days, they need to know this is happening.
Yeah. They're not playing around.
No. And, so at the end of the day, it goes back to what you said. Yeah, nobody likes this compliance. Nobody likes this, but it keeps us clean and helps us make money.
Yeah, agreed. I think we chomped on a bit today. Eh?
Yeah, man. I'm not going to lie. I've been waiting for 20 minutes 'cause I have to go to the bathroom. And I don't know if you saw, I started to sweat at one point. I'm like, I hope this isn't coming down because I'm going to die.
You had your leg up and now it's down.
Yeah,
I was like, something's going on.
I'm like, wow. I'm just waiting for Evan to come and be like, okay, guys, batteries are dead. Leave.
Well, I think with that, we'll sign it off on Mike's bathroom break. So Uptown Experts, we're out.